everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is another episode of Put Together. Welcome to the show. I'd like to welcome everybody who's watching us on all of our 4 Facebook pages. Thank you for joining us. All of you on LinkedIn and Twitter, and to our friends on YouTube, thank you for watching. Would you please do us a favor if this is your first time watching? Scroll down there, hit that subscribe button, and you might want to hit that bell to get notified every time we have a new show. Remember, all of you are part of the conversation, so please ask questions. Put It Together Conversation is a show about folks, about you, where you come from, where you are now, and what the journey has been like. And our guests come on to share their stories and hopefully motivate and inspire you to go after your own dreams and goals. My guest today is a really good friend of mine. We've known each other for a little bit, Guy Noland, and let me give you his bio. Guy Noland is an entertainment producer with over 20 years of experience in media development and production. He has helmed film crews on feature films, TV, and documentary shoots throughout the USA, Canada, Europe, Africa, Australia, and the South Pacific. Along with serving as an executive in several production companies, Guy also led the production team and created a Webby Award-Winning media site for one of the largest charities in the world. He holds a BA in film and TV arts as well as an MA and MFA in screenwriting. So he's not just good looking, he's smart too. So with that, let me bring on Guy Noland. Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm groovy, and my wife would say being good looking is probably my only attribute.
It's
I would argue.
More
than just a pretty face. That's all I'm saying, Daniel.
Don't interpret my silence as agreeing with her. No. Now, Guy Noland is no stranger to the show. You've been on the show actually twice, I believe, before.
Yeah, and I was looking at the opening lineup and credits there, and all the pictures and everything. I saw Torrance. on there.
Yes.
Didn't see myself on there.
Well, because you haven't been on this episode. You haven't been on this.
Whatever. I get it, Daniel. I get it.
No, well, see, you were on the podcast version, and you were on our conversations. But now that they're both Put It Together conversations,
they're coming for you, Daniel.
Damn it! Did you call on me, white people? So now that it's Put It Together conversations, now that you've been on the show, I will put you in the lineup. So you will be in that.
That's all I'm asking. Yes. That's all I'm asking for.
So maybe I'll have to call Torrance and say, sorry, Torrance, you've been bumped by not Guy.
We need more straight guys on this.
Is that what we need?
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the minority here, Daniel. You understand?
Yes. Poor white straight men. You have it so hard.
Yes, I know. I'm glad you finally see my point of view here, Daniel.
So this is where the show is going, folks, just to let you know. Remember, for all of you joining us, you can also be part of the conversation. So whatever channel you're watching on, go into the video, post your questions, comments, and let Guy know that you're here. As usual, I like to share how I know my guest. And I shared this story when we did conversations originally. And if you're missing those shows, you can actually go to YouTube and find those. So you can find all those conversation shows on YouTube. And so if you're watching us on YouTube, just scroll down the conversations and you'll find the original, the first conversations we had. But Guy and I met at Cool Beans Comedy. We are both alumni of Cool Beans U. So a big hello to Corey and Matt if you're watching this. Originally, and I'm going to tell the story because originally when I met Guy, he was scary. He looked much like this. Yes, and he was telling a lot of like very white jokes. And
well, be more specific. Not white jokes. I mean, what are white jokes really?
Go ahead.
I was telling jokes about what it's like to live as a person who looks like a white supremacist.
Yes. Well, yeah. I didn't want to point you out, but yes, that was it.
Not that I look like a white supremacist. I don't know where that comes from.
No, you don't look like it. You don't act like it. You could walk into any gay bear bar and fit in.
And who's to say I haven't?
There's no proof yet, but I'm sure I'll find a picture somewhere. But I was the truth is I was a little intimidated by Guy, and I avoided making contact. I was like, this guy has speed dial to immigration, and ICE is going to be waiting for me outside. And for those of you that have been following for a while, know that one of my spiritual growth exercises is when something intimidates me or something scares me or makes me uncomfortable, I will go after it. I chase after it. So I went up to Guy and I said, "Hey, would you be on my podcast?" And I quickly realized how nice he was and how genuine and friendly. And I went to his house, came on the podcast. We had a great time, and I consider him one of my best buddies. We don't get to see each other much anymore, but guys, that's a scary, scary funny. Yes,
Yes.
I would say that. Not to mention that he's one of the most funniest people I know, creative, entertaining, artistic, and he's directed me too, so that's kind of cool. So
Well, listen, and just as a footnote to that too is that and what I had told Daniel too was that I appreciated how much that you had gone out of your way to do that, because it actually happens to me quite a bit. I don't know why. I mean, I look like a pussycat. I don't know why people are scared of me, but it happens quite a bit. But the reactions I get are either they're afraid of me and they stay away from me, or they're afraid of me and they attack. That's what I get a lot. Is I get people, I'll get attacked out of nowhere, and I'm like, what's going on? And it's that fear, and people are reacting out of fear. And for you and a couple of other people, that their reaction was to befriend somebody that they're afraid of. And I'm like, I like that. It's my favorite one. I would rather not have people stay away from me or attack me because they don't understand, rather than to reach out. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. Then I mean, I just consider you. Well, the first time I was going to go on set for reels, not in class, I went to your place to go over some jokes and some stuff. So super cool guy. So I guess we're going to start. Here you go. Kitty, meow meow.
Who is the peanut gallery over there? Who is this guy?
I don't know, some dude that keeps hacking my account. But Guy Noland, let's start with your story. Tell us a little bit about how you put it together.
Is this where we sit and stare at each other, Daniel?
This is where we.
This is the part?
Yes, you're doing it right. Guy is the embodiment of not judging a book by its cover. Oh, I totally judge him. I completely judge him.
No, please,
I still judge him in silence. But let's start with, what are you working on right now?
Well, right now, as you had mentioned that I had directed you in something. I have a pilot that I just wrote and produced. And Daniel played, of all things, a mime. He didn't talk. He didn't speak. And it was very hard for him. I mean, it took a lot of direction, because I kept saying, Daniel, no, you don't have any lines. Quit improving. You don't say anything. Just trapped in a box. That's all. Pull the rope. That's all you need to. But actually, it was the setup. That Daniel's scene was the setup for the pilot. It's a half-hour comedy, clearly. And Daniel's scene is the setup. It's the cold open, which is one of the most important scenes in a pilot, because it's the hook. It's what gets people going, oh, what is this? I got to see this. And so Daniel's was that setup, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's very funny. And I remember editing it, and I edited it, and I was like, and I'm laughing. I'm just laughing because, the whole thing is so funny, but the whole setup was perfect, and you were perfect in that. And I've had a lot of, and I've even had basically, to catch people up on what it was it's a half-hour mockumentary in the vein of The Office, that is set up as around a community theater that's trying to put on a show, and it's character-driven ensemble piece. And so this whole pilot episode is the auditions for to get in this community theater show called My Fair Lassie, which is a ripoff of My Fair Lady, because they can't afford the rights. So they write their own version of My Fair Lady. And so they have all these, it's about all of these funny people who are coming into audition. And Daniel's the first one that we see who's coming into audition, and he's, a mime, auditioning for a musical. So that's kind of the setup of the show, and Daniel's in that. And I tell you what, I mean, the whole thing I went through, and I was editing this thing, and I was just on the floor, and I know it, I wrote it. And I mean, it was just the whole cast was just brilliant. And but you're the thing that leads it off, and it set a great tone. I mean, you saw it. You said it set a great tone for the whole thing.
Well, you know, that's okay. The interesting thing is that I've seen it and I cracked up and I thought it was hilarious, especially having been there early in the morning. I did my scene, and because for those of you watching, we shot this like through the pandemic, and so we were not encouraged to hang around and linger. So it was very like, go do your thing and you're out the door. Let's go. So I didn't get to like interact with anybody. I didn't get to talk to anybody. And then I think because I was the only one in makeup, people just kind of avoided me. And top it off is that because I was in makeup, I couldn't wear my mask. So everybody was being very considerate and keeping their distance from me, which I took it very personal. I went in my car and cried, of course. But thank you for saying that, because even watching it, I never considered that my part was like the beginning. Like it didn't register, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it's the open. It's everything. In fact, well, Christian hasn't seen it. You didn't show it to Christian.
I didn't show it to him.
Oh. That's all right. That's all right, Christian. I wasn't invited to his 50th birthday party.
Everybody on Facebook was invited to my party.
I missed that invitation.
It was a general. I'm coming to your party. I'm bringing tacos, guacamole, and salsa to your party. So
tacos, yeah.
Yes. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's a great piece. Yeah. It's a great piece.
But it did. It really did set the tone for the whole thing. And in fact, it's going to be if anybody wants to, I don't know if they're viewing it, but coming next week, it's on Series Fest, which is a very big television film festival. It's one of only 7 that made it into Series Fest. For this whole thing. So it's pretty big. Anyway. We did an interview for that, and they asked us, in the interview, whether what the whole thing was about and how we got into it and everything. And the gal who was interviewing us said, "Oh yeah, I was screening them, and I was one who screened, stage managed." And she said, as soon as I saw the opening, I had stop everything, and I called the series director over and said, "You got to see this," because the series director is a theater file, a theater nerd. And she goes, "You got to stop what you're doing, come over and look at this because theater people are going to love this. People are going to love this." And so it was the opening that hooked her in, and which with these festivals is the most important thing. If they're not hooked in the first, 2 or 3 minutes, they're not going to watch it, because they got thousands of these things to watch, literally thousands of submissions to go through. So if they're not hooked in the first 2 or 3 minutes, they're done. They're not watching. They're moving on to the next thing. So that's how important that opening is with this, and to show that how strong that opening is that, I mean, we just started submitting and we've already been accepted to 5 festivals, Series Fest being one of them, also Los Angeles Comedy Fest, which is a huge festival. And then another really big one that I can't say yet because they haven't announced it, but is an enormous festival that we've been accepted to or shortlisted for as of right now.
I'm so glad I'm just finding that out now. Had I known so here's an actor's confession. Had I known the responsibility that I was going to be in that first shots, because when Guy called me and said, "Hey, do you know how to mime?" I'm like, "Of course, yeah. Google, how do you mime?"
Well, let's be honest. The first time you said, "I'm not sure I know how to mime," I'm like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, nobody really does. I mean, like.
I Googled.
But you did great. It was really funny. Like you did a great job.
I did some stuff for a friend of mine once, but it was like for this children's party. So it was encouraged to not know, so that it was bad miming. And I was encouraged to talk to break the mime thing. But I actually was Googling the night before, like, how do you like properly do things? Of course, I did nothing of it on this.
Well, no, I was going to say that I wouldn't have known. If you'd have told me, "Oh yeah, I've been, I took, I studied with Marcel, I would have been like, okay. I had no idea. I was like, it looks good to me.
Yeah, the whole cowboy thing was my idea. That was
That was the funniest part. That's why that made it in there, because I was like, that is funny.
Well, I'm excited for people to watch that. For everybody watching, this is Putting Together Conversations. My guest today is the wonderful Mr. Guy Noland, and we're talking mimes, tacos, and birthday parties. Which Christian, because we follow you, Christian is like asking about your new Ford Ranger. You just got a new truck.
He's saying he's stuttering. Who's making fun of my disability?
No, he was
Christian,
making fun of me stuttering over here.
Or are you making fun of Daniel's stutter?
He said I was stuttering because I didn't invite you to my birthday party.
I see what you're saying. All right, I'm with you, Christian.
He hopes to see it someday. We're going to be over at his birthday, so yeah.
Yeah, well, that was my new truck. You know, I pestered my wife enough that she finally let me get my truck, because my old truck broke down on the 210, and I was devastated. I had that truck forever, and then I was actually on my way to a callback for an audition, and it broke down on me, and I was just devastated. And so I wound up having to get this dumb little Jeep, and I just hated it. And I complained about it long enough that my wife let me get a new truck. So that made me very happy.
Nice. Well, I guess that's your birthday present somehow.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's what my wife will tell you. That's what she'll tell you.
Convincing. What is it? No, not the truck, Daniel. The short.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Christian's got to see that sometime.
I think I still have. If you have the link later, send me the link if you can, so I can show it to Christian.
Remind me. Yeah, I'll send it to
you. So what else is going on? So we haven't seen each other since your last birthday in 19.
Yeah, I know.
So
what have you been doing any stand-up since everything opened back up?
I did. I have been.
You did?
So, as everybody heard in the bio, so he's an actor, comedian, producer, director, writer. But yes, I did several shows during 2020. Live shows, Zoom shows, Instagram shows.
How was that? I couldn't bring myself to do those.
I did several corporate stuff too, online corporate stuff for conferences, which I'll tell you that story later. But I love the Zoom. You know what? One of the greatest things about the Zoom in comedy shows was, which is weird because I'm already used to doing podcasting. I'm used to being on a Zoom where sometimes you're just talking to a group of people and nobody's interacting or whatever. From all of our live shows and the live stream shows that Christian and I do and the ones that I do alone, I'm already used to sitting in front of an audience that's not really there,
right?
Talking and just continuing the joke. And you learn the art of the pause just long enough for them to catch up to the joke. Which then in turn, when I was able to do a couple of live shows, really helped me because I'm not dependent on the laugh to continue my story anymore. Like it's trained me to just keep going, whether people react. It's like theater. Like you know where to pause just then long enough for the audience to catch up. And then you like, okay, keep coming, like follow me there. I loved them. I think they were training. But for those of you that know Little Mexican Productions Inc. and the shows, the Card Devo, when I do card readings, it's basically the same thing. I'm reading for somebody, I pause long enough for them to catch up, and then I have to keep going. So I guess mentally I've already been training for that without knowing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What was your hesitation towards online comedy shows?
Yeah, just that. For me, the whole reason that I started doing comedy was for the audience interaction. And to have to, to do an online thing and get like literally not to have that energy of the audience in front of me, like, nah, not interested. Like I could do that on Facebook Live anytime I wanted to, if that's what I wanted. You know what I mean? And for me, it's the whole point of, in fact, that's the reason why I started doing comedy, was because I had been out of the live theater thing for a few years, and I was missing it. And I was like, you know what? I need to feel that energy again. I need to feel that live audience interaction. I need that feedback. That's what I need. And so I told my wife, I'm like, I think I'm going to go and try comedy. I'm like, cause this is I don't need to go and audition for a show and go in rehearsals and do all that stuff. Like I can just put together 3 to 5 minutes and just go up in front, at an open mic or something and at least start to get that, get fed, you know what I mean? Get that fix. And
so you require a lot of attention is basically what you're saying.
Is that a question?
No. Just
I mean, like, of course. Like, who are you talking to?
Yeah, I forgot for a second. But you do have a question on the board. Guy, when you develop a short or feature, how do you get the crew and team together to support it? Is it from previous cruise relationships, friends, or?
I offer sex. Which means, no, yeah. Well, unless you're taken. Sorry.
That was not in my contract.
Said no, I know. Yeah. I was going to say, which is why I never have anyone volunteer to do it. No, it's a good question, actually, to our audience member, Christian. Thank you for asking that. A lot of it is favors. A lot of it is favors that are called in, that, for something like this. And this is okay. This is an interesting story. So the way that this came about, of this pilot, was because I funded it myself. I'm a writer. As Daniel had mentioned, I have both an MA and an MFA in screenwriting, 2 masters. Don't ask. It's a long story. So I've written a lot of scripts, and I've submitted a lot of scripts, and I've, into festivals and things like that, and to competitions, and I've actually placed in several competitions, and nothing has really come out of it. And I thought, I need to make something from one of these scripts. I need to do something. So right before the pandemic is when I had gotten back into live theater, and I don't know if I told you the story, but it was about September, October of 2019. I saw on Actors Access, I saw an audition for a musical, and I thought, I missed that. I think I want to try and get back into that. And again, it was the whole, I miss that audience interaction. I want to, I think I'll go and audition for this just to warm up, just to get back into auditioning for shows. I wasn't planning on getting the part. It was a reputable theater that I was aware of. There was actual pay, which we know in theater is pretty rare. So I said, I'll go audition for it. And then I got the part, and I was like, holy crap. I wasn't expecting to get this. And then that started me on this road of musical theater. And so, I did like literally 4 shows back to back for different theaters. And it was literally one would wrap, and then the next day I would be starting rehearsals for the next musical. And I had just finished doing Kinky Boots down with 3D Theatricals down in Cerritos Performing Arts Center. And one of the guys who was in that show was he was a Broadway actor who was out here. And I was like, he had this extensive Broadway resume. And I said, why are you here? I mean, like, you've got this guy, he was in Lion King, and he was in Shrek, I think Shrek, and I mean, just a bunch of big Broadway musicals. And I'm like, well, why are you here? And he said, well, I wrote and produced a half-hour pilot, and it got picked up. And so that's why I'm out here. And I was like, do you mind if I take a look at it? And he said, no. I said, absolutely. So he sent me a link to it, and I watched it, and it was good. But I was like, well, this is what I do. Like, I can do this. And he gave me the onus to go, wow, this is possible. Like, it got picked up. His got picked up, and he did the same thing. He put it through the festivals, and somebody saw the festivals, and I think it's the same old Hollywood story. Like, it was FX, some executive, greenlit it for like whatever, 10 shows. And then that executive got fired. And then he was like, oh, back to the drawing board. But then somebody who else had seen it just passed it to somebody who, and it wound up in Lisa Kudrow's hands, and her production company wound up picking it up and optioning it. And then I think it wound up with National Lampoon. Anyway, all that to say, that was just an idea that he had written and produced with a buddy of his back east, turns into this thing. And so I'm like, gosh, I think I need to do that. It inspired me. And literally that show wrapped, and I was going into the next production. And on our first rehearsal was when everything shut down.
Mm.
And so now I'm like, literally my next 2 months was planned out. I was doing this show for the next 2 months. And now I had literally nothing going on. And so I'm like, all right, I don't have an excuse here. I need to just write. I need to write this thing. So I wrote it. And then as you do as a writer, then you workshop it. You workshop your work. And this was like a first time I'd really had a piece that I workshopped that everybody really responded to. Like it got a really good response. I mean, that's to say that I've never had a good response, but not on the first draft. Is you always get all these notes back on the first draft. And this was the first time that there was like no notes coming back. Everyone was just like, I love this. And, you know, just little things here and there, but you just don't get that from professional writers. They're always going to find something wrong with it. And this one, that wasn't happening. And I'm like, oh, I've got something here. I've got something here. So short story turned into a long story. I said, I got to find the money to make this. Again, we're in pandemic. Nothing else is going on. Now's the perfect time to do it because nobody's working, right? So everybody's looking for just something to do to keep sharp. And so I said to my wife, this was the first time in 20 years, because I've always worked as an independent contractor. This is the first time I qualified for unemployment, because for the first time, anyone can get unemployment. So I've never qualified before. So I'm like, I'm gonna apply for unemployment. And it wasn't very much, but I said to my wife, I said, how about if I take this money from unemployment and I just take that money and make this pilot? Would that be okay? And with you? And she's like, yeah, go for it. It's free money basically, because I never would have had unemployment before. And so I took that money, and that's what we made the pilot with. And it was, and Lou, who you met, my producing partner. Was Lou there? Maybe Lou wasn't there when you were there the day you were there. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't remember meeting anybody. I just went.
Yeah. But he put the budget together, and it happened to be the exact amount that I had gotten for unemployment, to produce this thing, which wasn't a lot. We did not produce this for a lot of money. And so everything just kind of fell into place. Like it all worked.
Nice.
Everything would work the way, it was supposed to work. I don't know what you would call that in your business, karma. I don't know what you would call that. But everything. It's
just a perfect alignment.
Everything aligned. Right. Like everything aligned, perfectly for this thing to happen. And then, all my friends, actor friends, is who I reached out. Now, of course, camera, the DP, grip, and sound, you're never going to get for free. Those are the things you got to pay for, because nobody's going to work for free. But again, we're on pandemic, so nobody's working. So people are willing to work for a little bit less than normally because they just want to work. So the biggest nightmare was getting past SAG and all of their COVID restrictions and everything. That was the hardest thing, and having to really not to adhere to COVID. That wasn't really that hard, but for their checklist and what they required was like crazy. And their thing was like, well, we want to make sure that the independent producers can still make this. I'm like, you're not doing that. Like, the requirements that you have are for studios. I cannot pay for, one COVID coordinator for every, 8 people on the set. You know what I mean? Like I can't afford that. So there's just a lot of stuff like that we had to get through, and that took a long time. But at the end of the day, we got what we got, and
awesome.
and it's doing well. So
I'm excited for people to see it. We do have another question on the board. See if you can answer this. It says, Michael Olson from LinkedIn asks, what is the current market for military projects? Would you know anything about that?
There's a huge market, I think, for military projects. And here's the problem: is that that's not a secret. So the business is flooded right now with military projects because we've been at war for the past 20 years. And so a big thing is that the military has started to push towards Hollywood, is to start to show the soldiers' experience and with, and to start producing things that show what the soldiers are going through and with PTSD and all that stuff and those kinds of stories. And so as soon as Hollywood starts to team with the military to start making this stuff, then they just get inundated with these scripts. And so so the good news is, yes, they're doing it, The bad news is, if you have a script like that, it's going to be a lot. There's written by a combat vet. Yeah. No, listen.
First-hand stories.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're looking for those. They are looking for those. But I'm here to tell you, just know that there's going to be a lot of them out there. That you're going to be up against a lot of other people. There's a lot of competition out there for it. But that's the good news, bad news, right? Good news is, yes, Hollywood is looking for military stories. They love them right now. And especially with this atmosphere, everybody wants to watch that stuff. They want to know what's going on. There's a big audience for that. Good news. Bad news is everybody wants it. So there's a lot of them. Yeah.
I think, Michael, and coming just from the actor side and from all the people that I've interviewed over the years is, yes, military projects, combat, firsthand stories, PTSD and stuff is like, yes, but when you think you've already told too much, tell more. Because I feel like one of the things that I've gathered, and correct me if I'm wrong, is some of the stories have been told in different ways, but when you go in deeper, just a little bit deeper into the story, it's like, for instance, I can associate it with Latino stories of immigration or undocumented stories. It's like we've heard millions of them, but you add just a little bit extra truth to it, or just a little bit more realism, and then people are like, "Oh, I haven't seen that before." Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I would say what would set you apart. There's a lot of them out there, but really, my advice would be is, absolutely, you have a chance. Yeah, my advice would be, really craft it well, because a lot of people, they want to tell their story, and like you said, is based on an actual event, so they'll just kind of outline it the way it happened, which is interesting, and the truth is very interesting. But what happens sometimes is that real life doesn't follow the Hollywood model, and audiences have been trained to really expect that Hollywood model, to expect certain things to happen within their stories that they're watching. And so my big piece of advice is figure out a way to fit it into that Hollywood model, so that there's a beginning, a middle, and end, and the hero has a nemesis, and is a singular nemesis who's they're working to overcome, and they've got a goal. So they're not just fighting, they're not just killing the enemy. There's a goal, there's a mission, there's something that has to happen at the end that they accomplish, and that they defeat the nemesis. And there's a whole structure that happens in Hollywood model. And what I see happen so often is with a lot of these military films, and I love military films. I'll watch them, especially like, combat, that kind of things based on true stories. Love those. But where I see a lot of these fall down is they just rely totally on what happened in that real event. Like, you look at the military films that have really stood out. They've just got really in-depth character studies, and the characters are just so good and rich, and the theme is just dripping with theme, and the plot is just riveting, and there's a lot going on outside of just blowing shit up, for lack of a better word. And that's a great antagonist if you're the one if the hero's the one who kills him in the end. In other words, like, I look at Saving Private Ryan. Steven Spielberg, you don't get any better than that. I mean, what a great storyline, right? Based on, and listen, any World War II vets who watch it will tell you that they had to walk out of the theater in that first 15 minutes because it was so real. It was, that D-Day invasion. It was so real that they couldn't they couldn't sit there and watch the whole thing. But the whole story is based on, they have a mission, and that mission is find Private Ryan, get him home. And it's so deep, and everything is so deep, and all the characters, and Tom Hanks's character, and who is this guy, and this mystery around him, and who he was before he was in the war, and all of this stuff. And that stuff is what you got to find. You got to find that stuff. If you want to do a great war film, I would hold up Saving Private Ryan as a great war film to emulate, and everything that happens in that, and every character, every single one person in that platoon, you fall in love with. And when one of them dies, you feel that loss. It's not just another grunt in green who you don't recognize, and I think Vin Diesel is actually in that. He's one of them who dies pretty early on. And when he dies, his character's already been so well established. You're like, oh no, so that's the key. That's the key, I think, with military films, is really finding the heart of what that story is.
Yeah. A recent interview that we did with the writer, because I'm writing my own script too. And one of the suggestions he gave me was drop the audience in the middle of the story so that the characters are already developed at that point. Like, and that's why they fall in love with the characters so quickly. It's like, for instance, going back to your project, it's like you're dropping the audience right in the middle of auditions. You're you're not doing this whole setup. Like, here you go. We're in the middle of auditions. Join us. And now the audience is like, oh, I'm already in the story. Okay, got you. But Michael, thank you so much for doing this. And please continue to ask any questions you have. Anything we can answer. Guy's an excellent source of information since he just went through it. But I want to remind everybody, you're watching Put It Together Conversations. My guest today is the wonderful writer, producer, actor, comedian. That's it. That's all I have. Mr. Guy Noland. We're talking filmmaking, writing a script, and telling the heart of the story. I didn't have anything else.
Yeah.
I was trying to be really creative, but I was looking at your face on the monitor, and I was like, "Isn't he adorable?" And
I have that effect on people. What can I say?
It threw me completely off.
I know. It happens to my wife all the time. She's looking at me over there. See, she just did it. She just looked at me. No words.
No words. Yeah. That happens with me and Christian all the time too. I'm like, I have nothing to say. Nothing.
I find that hard to believe. I don't believe you.
When you don't believe me, no, most people
that
don't.
You have nothing to say.
Oh, that I have nothing.
Yeah.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Wait a minute. I'm the host of this show. How dare you? What else is going on? What else did you do? Oh, Christian's watching me right here, right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
I am under your spell. So my curiosity is that, because people talk about, you mentioned that this was done on a small budget, because most people who are not in LA think, man, you need to have a lot of money to do a project. Like, you really need to. But honestly, I believe that sometimes actors, when we're friends with people and you believe in them and they call and say, hey, can you do this? And you're like, sure, yeah, I'll do it. Like, I want to work with you, whatever you have me to do. Like, I'll do it.
Right. My biggest piece of advice would be know your strengths and know your weaknesses. You can I think anybody can do it, but this is a town where people don't forgive. There's no forgiveness for half-assery. You know what I mean? Like know when you, again, so for example, in this, I said, you got to pay for a DP and grip and sound. Because what I see, because I know that I could do those, but I'm not the best one to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I can run a camera. I know how to do that. I know how to light. I know how to, to hold a boom mic. I can do that stuff. I can find somebody, say, stand here and hold this boom mic. But I also know that there's nothing more important than good sound. And it behooves me to hire somebody to do that, right? And rather, that's a corner you don't want to cut. Same with your camera. You want a good TP. You don't try and half-ass that, because it's going to show. Same with actors. Like, everybody thinks they can act. Everybody thinks they can act. Very few people can. Well, right? Very few people can do it well. And so you got to really know your limitations. No, you did great. I mean, I don't know if you have to talk, if that's, that changes anything. But
it's the walking and talking that gets me most of the times. I can stand there, but yeah, don't make me walk and talk.
But I mean, and everybody wants to direct, and everybody wants to act, and very few people can do that stuff well. And you have to know your limitations if you want to do it, because if it's okay, then it's bad in this town. Like, you can't just be okay. There's too much okay out. There's too much mediocre out there. In order to, what you have to do is set yourself apart. And that's one of the reasons why I did it, was because you have to gain attention. And in this town, there's so many people vying for attention that you get lost in the noise, right? You can't see the forest through the trees because what other cliches can I say? Needle in a haystack. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, you have to rise to the top somehow and get yourself above your head above the crowd so that you can be seen. And the only way you're not going to do that with mediocrity. The only way you're going to do that is with by greatness and by really striving for something that's really great, and setting yourself apart. So all that to say is, know your weaknesses and play to your strengths. And I don't mean like, I'm pretty good at it. No, I am great at this. Nobody else can do this better, or nobody that I can afford can do this better than me. So I'll do it. But I'm okay at running a camera. No. Then don't do it. I'm okay. I'm an okay actor. No. Then don't do it. Find somebody else to play that part. Unless you can say, I am the best person, absolutely the best person that I can afford. And even still, should probably find some money to hire that person. With the actors, if you got good friends who are good actors, then that's fine. But that would be my advice.
I don't know if you saw the comment before that Michael said that you make a great soldier. You have
people think all the time. They think they always ask me, and they're like, you a vet? And I'm like, no. Yeah. I mean, in another life, I probably.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah. I appreciate that. I was going to go into the military. I was going to join the Army, and then I didn't. I chickened out. But no,
that was during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, though, right?
Yeah. We talked about this once, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked. It was in 1990. I was going to join the Army when I was 19, and I didn't because I was gay and I was scared about going in. That's the only reason it stopped me. I was ready to sign the papers. I was like,
you'd be like,
not to mention that the recruiter. Yeah, not to mention the recruiter was kind of hot, and that was the main reason I wanted to join. I ain't gonna lie, I was 19.
Yeah.
Does everybody look like you? I'm in. Like, yeah.
Kid in a candy store.
Yeah. Want to be a ranger guy? I would love to be a ranger guy. So true story and side story. But true story is I was approached by an organization once, and they were doing these like Make-A-Wish kind of situation, and it was right after cancer, and they were like, "Hey, you just survived cancer. Like, we'd like to include you in one of these Make-A-Wish projects." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So they were like, what's your wish? What do you want to do? I'm like, I want to go to boot camp. Like, I just want to go to boot camp. I'm not going to join the military. I may not make it. I may die before the end of boot camp, but I want to know that I went. I want to know that I did it. And they wrote me back and they were like, "No, we can't do that." I'm like, "Well, then buy me a TV. Shit, like,
I'll settle for a TV.
Yeah, like, buy me a new couch.
Yeah. Oh, see.
Oh, wow, man. Well, thank you.
Well,
thank you for your
yeah. Here's the thing too, is that my wife and I just had this conversation last night. We were watching a show that, that these people are going through this kind of like ranger training kind of a thing. And I said to her, if I had things to do over, I probably would have gone. I think I would have gone through military. I would have done the same thing. I would have gone for special forces, because that's my personality. Now it's like, I train martial arts and I do, and with firearms and things like that. And I'm like, I think if I had to do it differently, I probably would have gone through the military and gone to special forces and done all that stuff. But, another time, another life, maybe.
Yeah, Michael, I only play gay in bed. Every other time I'm straight. So that's a different.
I would argue with that. Yeah, fake news.
How dare you, sir? Let me get all Mexican up on you. But Michael, you sound like you have a great story. Michael, when are you coming on my show? Come and tell your story, man. Like, are you kidding me? Like 22 years in the military, 4 combat tours. Come share your story. What's your put together story? I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thing.
Thanks for hijacking my show there, Michael. Appreciate that.
But you see how he buttered us up first, kind of like, you would be great. You would be great. By the way, you look like you belong in the military. I'm not like whatever. But no, seriously, dude. When I'm gonna reach out to you and see about coming on the show. Anyway, folks, this is Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is actor, producer, comic writer, actor, Mr. Guy Noland, and we're talking making films, asking for help, and realizing your limitations. Of course, as usual, this is about the time where we ask our guests to share some words of wisdom with our audience. So, Guy Noland, what words of wisdom can you put together for my audience?
I thought I'd been doing that the whole time.
That's what you get for thinking, but yeah. These are real words of wisdom that you might have for the audience.
My words of wisdom would be listen to Daniel Garza and watch Put It Together.
That part is true. They should watch the show.
I would say that actually one of the biggest things that I've learned is that, people aren't against you, they're for themselves. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in life. And it's not always easy to follow that or remember that, but I try to remind myself of that a lot. And actually I just posted something that it was attributed to Anthony Hopkins, but he didn't actually say it. But it was a lot of that same kind of thing, is that, separate yourself from the negativity and don't fight for people's love. If they don't want it, they don't deserve it. Move on, save yourself, save your love and your attention for the people who value you and want you. So many times in my life that I've been in situations where I wanted to be there, but I wasn't wanted. And I fought to be there instead of just walking away and going where I was appreciated. And that's another thing that I would say, go where you're appreciated, not where you're tolerated. And so many times in my life, I've done that and just stayed where I was tolerated because I wanted to be there rather than being where I was appreciated. And now I've kind of found my tribe and where I'm appreciated and I'm happy. That's where I want to be. And so often the people that don't appreciate you, it's just that it's not that they're against you. It's just they're for themselves.
Yeah. And I mean, through my spiritual coaching and clients, we talk about that all the time. It's like, why are you there? Why more than one way, not just God, not just the universe, not just life, but the person is telling you they don't want you there. Like, why are you there?
Right.
It doesn't make
sense.
Right. And Michael, man, good vibes to you, dude. Pitching your project. That's awesome. We're rooting for you.
What's Independent Filmmaker Day? See, Michael's hijacking my interview again. Look at this guy.
Most excellent words of wisdom. There you go.
Thank you, Christian.
I paid him to say that because nobody else can. So.
Listen, I'm going to start being the mouthpiece for Michael here. Keep learning.
I posted that. Keep learning.
Yeah.
You were talking when I posted that.
I saw it, but I'm trying to move on here. I'm trying to, trying to be positive.
And there's very similar career. Yeah, it's like I think that's one of the things, and I'm not trying to like butter you up or brown nose you, but that's why.
No, go ahead. I'm okay with it.
You ready for me to like?
Yeah. No. Please.
You meet people that motivate you and inspire you to go. I can continue to grow. Like I can keep going, and. You were one of those people. You. I mean, from the moment I told you that when I met you. Well, not when I met you because I was scared of you, but when we had a chance to sit down and talk, like your tenacity and your continuing to want to grow, like pushes me. Not that I wasn't doing it before, but it was like, keep going, dude. Like telling myself, keep going. Like look what he's doing. Like, you can do it. And it's not about comparing. It's not about competing.
No, I get what you're saying. And I feel the same way about you, is that I admire people who don't just sit back and wait for stuff to happen. I see that so often in this business, is that people just sit back and just wait for something to happen. In fact, I was thinking today, I'm like, man, kudos for Daniel to keep going with the show. Like, this is not, even though I know it's not a lot of technical effort goes into it, but just to find, find guests and people to talk to and take the time to do it and to do it continuously, no matter what, even if there's 1,000 people watching or nobody watching, you still do it. I think most people would give up and walk away and go, nobody's watching this week. We're just going to take a break or whatever. No, but you still do it. That kind of tenacity is admirable. Like, not a lot of people would do that, but that's where success is made. You know, I really believe that. I really believe it. In fact, my wife was writing something recently about, it was a Stallone quote about never giving up, and that, I don't remember what it was exactly, but it's along the lines of, the only difference between a successful person, success and failure is tenacity, is that, never giving up. The people who are successful, only successful because they never said die, they never quit. And that's the secret to success, is never stop moving.
Well, we just ended the podcast this March after 9 years. So I was on the air with my podcast for 9 years, over 300 episodes. At one point, I had 3 shows on the air. Over the lockdown, we started Christian and Daniel show. We started the Card Devo, putting together conversations, which was a combination of the podcast and the conversation shows that you were on originally. And that was the inspiration for this. And then my manager during the lockdown was like, look, there's no auditions. There's nothing going to happen. Why don't you take your Zoom recordings that you already have, just put them on the air, let people keep watching you. But there's something that you said earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but it's that continuing, like, just keep moving forward. It can be, you can take 1 step today, you can take 5 steps tomorrow, 2 the next day. But as long as you keep moving, you get better and you get better. And I believe that I just turned 50 last year, and I feel like I'm at the peak of my career as an entertainer, as an advocate, as a spiritual coach.
Oh, I don't. I think you're on your way up.
Everything fits. Everything just fits right. I feel good. I feel like I sound better than I ever have. I finally learned English, so that's a start. So
please, thank you.
To answer your question, Guy. Okay, that's.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, good to know. Okay, all right. Yeah, cool.
Thank you for that. See, now he's helping you out. Like, he felt.
Oh no! I asked earlier what it was where he was pitching, and I just didn't know because Series Fest is having a pitch next Pitch Fest next week too. So I just didn't know if it was a.
Oh, you're in the Army. You're in the Army. Awesome, man. I am going to reach out to you, Michael, just so you know. So I'll be sending you a message afterwards.
But anyway, no, I mean, to the point of what we were talking about is that so often I see, especially in this business, is that people they sit back and wait for stuff to happen, and that's not how you succeed. Actually, in life, in this business or anything else, you don't succeed by sitting back and watching and waiting for something to happen to you. And that happened during the pandemic too. And it's what you're talking about, is that so many people just sat back and went, okay, everything's shut down, so I guess we're not doing anything. That's not how you succeed. Successful people go, all right, that's not working, so I got to make something happen. I got to figure this out. And which is why I appreciate that you kept going, by hook or by crook. Maybe nobody's watching, but so what? At least I'm doing something. And that was the thing too, is with my pilot, is that, a lot of people were like, yes, I want to be doing something. I don't have anything to do right now. So yes, I will come and do your pilot because I want to be, at least I'm keeping sharp, at least I'm doing something, and at least I'm, moving forward in something. And I think that's the biggest secret to success in life.
Yeah. It's really awkward now that we're coming out of the lockdown, and I'm catching up with people, or people are messaging me and they're like, I'm like, so what have you been up to? Oh, with the lockdown, I just kind of like watch Netflix. I'm like, oh, me too. What are you watching? They're like, what were you doing? Oh, well, I have my 3 shows. We launched our company. I wrote a book. I'm writing I have some Oracle cards coming out. And they're like, where did you find the time? I'm like, well, everybody was on lockdown.
There was nothing else to do.
Because I realized, this is just a side note, because I live in, for those of you, I live in Laguna Beach, and Christian, we have our studios and his house here in Culver City. An hour drive plus everything I was doing, I was averaging 2 to 6 hours of driving time almost every day. And all that time went from driving to working on projects. And that made a huge difference. But yeah, military tenacity, yes. We have one more question. That is what Daniel said about the C&D show. We're going something other than just sitting around doing nothing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The Christian and Daniel show. I was like, let's And you know what helped about the Christian and Daniel show is that we're on Wednesday, but well, Wednesday nights every Wednesday night. It gave us something to do together as a couple too. It's like, hey, we're going to be in lockdown. If I go back to my place in Laguna, at least we know every Wednesday we're going to sit down and talk for an hour, at least. So that made a difference. I was a bit in there during that time. Yeah. I was like, you're talking. You're going to talk, and we're going to do stuff. We're almost down to the last 5 minutes of the show. Before we go, hold on, let me just give some announcements here. For everybody watching, remember that we are here almost every other week. So join us on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. for the Christian and Daniel show, on Fridays with the Card Devo at 5 o'clock, and on Saturdays at 12 and 5 with two separate guests. So make sure that if you're watching us live here at noon, we'll be back at 5 o'clock with another guest. And you can watch us on all of these channels, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And if you're watching us on YouTube, even on replay, will you do us a favor? Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button, and you'll be notified every time there's a new show. You can go back to any of these channels and watch these on replay. And if you want to be a guest on the show, get in touch with us, and we'll be on. In case you didn't know, because I've been telling it every time, I wrote a book, Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game, written by me, illustrated by Jennifer Gatch and her daughter, Vivian Gatch. You can find it in any of these fine bookstores. Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game is a book about meditation. It's directed towards kids, but it's good for everybody. So if you're having a hard time with meditation and want to find a good way to do it, Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Games will help you out. So go find it at your local bookstores. I have that copy written. My wife calls me Grumpy Bunny. Does she really?
Yeah, no.
So that's you.
Yeah.
Are we going to have an issue after this? Is that what's going on? Is that what you're saying?
I think we already do.
If you're really a Grumpy Bunny, I want to see the ears. I want to see the ears. No, nobody. No. I think we're about to start a discussion here.
These ears, I got to pull the pockets out.
I actually have my bunny ears. I ordered some great bunny ears for me, so I will. No, I'm not going to say that, because I was about to say I'll bring them to your house, but no, because then I'll have to bring them, and I'm not going to.
I know, right? Mm-hmm. No, you just stick with the tacos. I think we'll be all right.
For those of you that are new to the show or just watching this, I am pretty famous for liking my tacos. I love tacos, and so I have agreed to bring the taco making kit over to birthday. So, dude, how does 50 feeling? Before we go.
Not any different than 30, really. Other than, looking in the mirror and seeing that old guy looking back, I don't feel. In fact, I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday. I was at the gym, and one of the guys that I train with, and we were talking about that. I said, because we're both, in our 50s, and he says, he goes, yeah. I don't feel like I don't either, man. My brain thinks I'm still 26 years old. So it's just, when I have to get out there and roll on the mats, and it's a martial arts thing. Daniel, don't go there. Just yeah.
Already there.
When I have to go roll with other men and get sweaty on the mats.
Already there.
Yeah. That's my body reminds me that I'm not 26 anymore. Yeah.
We were just at the chiropractor on Wednesday, and the way that body snapped, it's bad for both of us, Christian and I, when the chiropractor goes, whoa.
Right. I've never heard that noise before.
I think I broke you. How old are you, Michael? You sounded way younger, but
you sounded younger in your texting.
Yeah, never mind about the show invite.
You text much younger than you actually are. That
did sound a little
surprising. You write like a 26-year-old. Yeah.
I don't know where that just sounded so funny. I thought I was talking to a younger person. How dare you? How dare you? Well, Guy, we're coming to the end of the show. Thank you so much for coming back. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Oh, okay. Like you made it sound really tragic, Michael. Like he's
Oh,
54.
he's old. Look at that guy,
Oh,
54. Who let him into this room?
back in your day. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
way back in the
Yeah.
day.
Um,
Listen, we were all in high school at the same time, so yes.
we remember the same cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're all Gen Xers.
But man, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Of course,
I missed
man.
you, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see you and Christian. In fact, that's Jill had mentioned that this morning. She's like, I'm so excited because she was texting with you this morning, and she said, I'm so excited that they're coming. And I said, yeah, well, we got to have our token Mexican and gays. They got to show up.
I know the only reason is because we fit a box. Thank you, Michael, for joining us. I know it's a quota you have to like an outside party nowadays in California.
Right. Yeah. If there's a check and it's like, you got Mexicans? Yes. You got gays? Yes. They're both right there.
Yeah.
Right over there. If you go to, and he brought tacos.
Oh.
Yeah.
And guacamole.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
anyway, I'm through with you. Oh, wait a minute. What did you say? 1988 high school, 1983. Oh, we rock. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, sir. Well, don't go away. Let me just say goodbye to everybody. I'm going to put you in the green room for just a second. But thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it.
No, thank you, my friend.
For everybody watching, thank you. This has been Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today was the wonderful, real deal friend of mine, Mr. Guy Noland. Remember, Putting Together Conversations is a show about folks, a show about you. Where do you come from, where you are now, and what your journey's been like. And the idea is to motivate and inspire other folks to go after their dreams and goals. So what's your story? Why don't you come over here and share it? If you want to get on the show, just send me a message on any of the channels you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. For now, I'm Daniel Garza saying, hey, put it together. See you next time. Bye-bye.